So I'm going to talk about robots in a few minutes, but first I wanted to introduce you to someone very, very dear to my heart. This is my mom. And you know, it would be impossible for me to come up with anyone in my life who probably had a larger impact than her. Because when I was growing up, we didn't go out to get milkshakes very often. We didn't go out to fancy restaurants very often. But if I needed some copper wire or some iron filings or a Fisher Technic or a Rector set for one of my schemes, somehow this woman found a way to get them for me. And the reason I'm here today is because she encouraged and nurtured me. She fired my imagination, enabled me to do the things that I love doing, creating and inventing. But this talk isn't about the first 40 years that we've had together. This talk is about our next 40 years. Because you see, there's going to come a time, hopefully a while from now, when I go home for Christmas, like I always do, and things are a little different. The house might not be as neat. The way she dressed might seem a little simpler or different, the conversation different. I don't know what it's going to be, but I know it's going to be a couple small things. I'm going to realize that Mom is getting older and is going to need some care. Might be as simple as just dirty floors and help cleaning up around the house. I might need to start calling my mom every night to make sure she's okay. She might need help understanding how to take all of the complex medical pills and regimes that perhaps one day will be important. Or later on, she may actually have difficulty getting out of her chair, or maybe one day, Mom's going to need some help just getting going in the morning. So I want to pose a question to the audience. The types of things that I just described, informal caregiving to a loved one or parent, how many people in this audience do it or know someone who's providing this type of care for someone in the audience? Oh my God. The actual statistic is 22% of people self-identify as informal caregivers. Now let me dive into this a little bit further because I'm going somewhere with this. For every person over the age of 65 today, there's 7 people under the age of 65. Okay, so there's a lot of people supporting our elders today. But one of them is young. One of them needs care too, so they can't really contribute. One of them maybe doesn't have the economic means or is living on the wrong coast. So in reality, it's about 4 to 1. For every one person over 65, there's 4 under that could actually provide care. Thus the proximity of that 22% figure I gave. But it's going to get worse, and it's going to get worse quickly. But in just 20 years, for every person over the age of 65, there's only going to be 4 people under the age of 65, and one of them is a kid, one of them is sick, one of them lives on the wrong coast. So really, in 20 years, it's going to be something like me and Mom. Or for you all in the audience, every single one of you is going to be responsible for an older person. So what are we going to do about it? I mean, Think about that. That's crazy. Well, what we've traditionally done is say, okay, Mom, I love you, but it's time, you'll be happier in a nursing home. And so that we've relied upon others to help provide the care that our seniors need. And there's a problem with that. Labor is getting much, much more expensive. The cost of having someone in a nursing home today is over $10,000 a month. That's the mortgage payment on a $2 million home. And it gets worse. According to the California Health Care Foundation, 75% of nursing homes fail to meet quality standards. And Mom doesn't actually want to go there anyways. 3 out of 4 seniors want to stay in their own homes. So Mom wants to stay home. I love Mom. She's done a lot for me. So I'll take care of Mom. So what did I just sign up for? Well, here's my schedule. Get up at 6 in the morning, spend a couple hours with my family, reading newspaper on the computer, go to work for 10, 11 hours, come back, spend a little more time by myself, and then go to sleep for 6.5 hours or so. Get up the next day, repeat. Now, I've just agreed that I'm going to provide care for my mom. Assuming that she's relatively fit, the statistics say that that's 3 hours a day. Getting up earlier, less time with my family, less time at work, less time with the family, less sleep. Perhaps that's doable. But if Mom becomes just a bit frail, talked about the chair, helping her out of their chair, if she's less able to get her around on her own, that 3 hours a day turns into 6.5 hours a day, getting up at 5:30. I'm spending more time during the day taking care of Mom than I am at work. I have to leave work in the middle of the day to take her to the hospital. I barely have time to see my family. I'm not sleeping much. This is not tenable. And it's backed up by statistics that it is not tenable. You are at an incredibly elevated risk of severe physical injury trying to take on this type of responsibility. I talked about diminishing time with your family. Well, that's real. You're 75% more likely to suffer from depression or an anxiety disorder. And I talked about taking care of Mom more than work. Well, according to the National Institute on the Aging, doing care for an elder and having a full-time job are actually incompatible. This is a real problem. So Mom, I know you want to stay home, but what about my family? What about my health and my job? This is going to take something. Something has to give in order for that to work. So what are we going to do? Well, what about robots? iRobot makes robots, I make robots. I've put over 4 million robots around the world to do things like clean floors. Thanks, Roomba. Maybe there's something that I could do with my company, iRobot, to help solve this problem. Well, I'm going to spend a little bit of time trying to give you ideas about what robots might actually take on. So here's the question. What's the most stressful part of being a caregiver? I would argue it's that nightly call. You do it a lot. But what happens when you call Mom and no one answers? Now, there's a million reasons why Mom might not have picked up the phone. She could be downstairs in the basement. The new snazzy phone I bought for her, the battery could have run out. She might be across the street having lemonade and cake with her friends. But when I call Mom and she doesn't answer, I know what's going on. I know without a doubt. She has fallen down the stairs, she has broken her hip, she's cuddled up in a tiny little mass, and she needs me to save her. So I call her neighbors. They don't answer. I call the police. They go ring the doorbell. They break down the door because no one answers. And she's across the street drinking her lemonade, wondering why police are breaking down her door. But that's what I would do, wouldn't you? So let's think about how robots might be able to enter into the equation here. This is SUGV, and it's capable of making maps of the environments that it operates in. Here this is not real time, but this is a map that this robot can create as it wanders around a home so that I could activate a robot. It could explore my mom's home, and it could do so more thoroughly than a few fixed cameras to make sure that it could see everywhere. I could look for mom. How am I going to look for mom? Well, you could use a visible light camera, or you could use maybe an infrared camera so you could have a little bit more privacy. Instead of seeing me in my clothes, I could just be a blob of infrared light. And it would be able to tell whether I'm sitting down or even lying on the floor. There you go, see? It could actually be a lot lower resolution than what you're seeing on the screen right now and still be able to say, okay, mom's not in the home, mom is on the home. Mom's standing up, wondering why the robot's out, or she's got an issue. So the next idea that you could do with a robot is address directly the number one cause a person has to go into a nursing home in the first place, and that is medical compliance. The average elder is on well over 5 different medications, and the dosing regimes are incredibly complicated. Some you take with a meal, some you take without a meal, some you take with milk, some you could never take with orange juice, some you take multiple times a day. I couldn't do it, much less my highly capable mom. And there's assistive technologies, smart pill bottle caps that can help. But really, what works the best is if a caregiver comes and gives me the right pill in the right dose at the right time. Thanks, Sugby. And maybe some water to take it with. This proactive giving of medication to ensure compliance. So, okay, that's cool. What else? Well, monitoring is important, medical compliance is important, but as function continues to degrade, you actually have to start interacting physically with the elder if you want to keep them independent. So now, I don't know why this is. I don't understand why people seem to have a problem with robots perhaps intimately picking up and manipulating and moving around elders. It baffles me. I build good robots, and you know, it's just people are anxious about what might happen. Maybe it has something to do with metal hands, but I do agree and admit that it's a problem that we need to address, and we have. We've invented a very low-cost, very compliant type of manipulator. This is a little video of it. It's a balloon, and filled with this balloon is something called a jammable material. And you can just launch it onto something, take a vacuum, and it solidifies. So it compliantly wraps around whatever you push it against, and it can pick things up. This is really cool. I have one. Ta-da. So here's this balloon. This is a balloon filled with this material, and this is a little pump. So I've got my little pill bottle here, and you know, I just push it on, hit the button, picks it up. Hit the release button, drops it. It's a compliant manipulator. It'll work just to show you it works. I put it on my hand, hit the same button, so the balloon is solidifying. And so that without a lot of technology, without high degrees of freedom, here's a way of actually manipulating and picking things up, which I think is very cool and is going to be very important in the field of robotics. So we've got the manipulation perhaps down, and I'm speaking in future terms now. What do you connect it to in order to do some things with force? So we've got, because let's say if you can do some things with both compliant grasping and power, you could start helping mom get groceries out of the car and bringing them inside. You could help mom out of bed, allow her to go from her couch to the bathroom with dignity, and do a lot of very important things to extend independent living years. And we have another robot. It's called Warrior, and it's not a medical robot. It's not a healthcare robot, but you can see it is a robot designed to lift hundreds of pounds, climb stairs, and operate effectively indoors. That's this guy right here. I like robots. And you can see that this guy is capable of driving about 15 miles an hour. You can have this deck on the top onto which you can put manipulators, you can put sensor packages that can carry 150 pounds or more of material and then bring it up well over table height. So a robot like this, they exist, they are manufacturable, and I think that by marrying some of these technologies together, we're going to be able to start thinking about robots that are not just monitoring, but robots to do physical work. So, Mom, I think that I heard you had a date with a cardboard tennis pro here at the Dell. So your time here is sadly come to an end. Take up my friend Roomba here. This is a little odd for me. Now, robots aren't going to be the answer to every caregiving problem. To be very clear, a robot is never going to replace me. I'm going to, every chance that I can, if my mom needs me, go and see my mom, give her the care, attention, support, human interaction that she needs. The point of the robots is extending independent living, not replacing the role of a child. And the robots are going to need associations and partnerships with professional care providers and hospitals. I'm the robot guy. But I think that they are an incredibly important part of solving this very, very serious problem. And my company, iRobot, I announced today, has set up a new business unit to address and develop robots for the extension of independent living in healthcare. And president of our new business unit, Todd Lufbro, is here in the audience. Todd, you stand up and wave. And Todd and I have this mission that over the next 10 years, we're going to add 1 million years of independent living to our customers and users. We think it's a great and achievable goal through technology derived from these two robots. But most importantly, at least to me, is that despite all the changing demographics that I talked about, through this work of creating assistive robots, I'm going to be able to provide the care for my mom. So as she grows older, she'll be able to live in the way that she wants to as long as possible. Thank you very much.